The second round of the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs is over. Entertainment-wise, I think I enjoyed myself more in the first round. A couple of the matchups in the second round kind of left me disappointed. Obviously, Tampa versus Florida wasn't the series everybody expected it to be. Calgary versus Edmonton was chaotic and extremely entertaining like everybody thought it would be. However, it just wasn't as long as I'm sure a lot of people would have hoped, with Edmonton winning in 5. But don't get me wrong, I obviously still enjoyed myself, and we have some pretty interesting matchups now in the conference finals. I'm really looking forward to it. They kick off tonight with Colorado versus Edmonton, McKinnon versus McDavid. I'm super stoked to watch that. And then in the Eastern Conference, it's Tampa versus New York, so Shesterkin versus Vasilevsky, the two best goalies on the planet right now. In this video, I'm going to preview and predict each series for you guys, and also do something that I didn't do for the second round predictions. I actually made polls on the community tab for each of these series so I can get your guys' thoughts on who you think is going to win, so it should be interesting to look at the results for those. Let's kick things off in the Eastern Conference with the Tampa Bay Lightning against the New York Rangers. The Rangers really impressed me last night, going out and getting a road victory over the Carolina Hurricanes, a team that had yet to lose at home in these playoffs up until last night. They're going to have quite the challenge for themselves in this round, though, against a very well-rested Tampa Bay Lightning team. Let's take a look at some of the stats for each of these teams in the postseason so far. Let's start off with Tampa Bay. Obviously, they swept the Florida Panthers in 4 games. Like I said to start off this video, pretty underwhelming series there. I expected a lot more out of Florida, especially considering Braden Point literally didn't play a game. So far through the first 2 rounds, the Tampa Bay Lightning are averaging 3.27 goals for per game and 2.45 goals against per game. They have a 22.9 power play percentage and an 87.8 penalty kill percentage, so their special teams have looked pretty good. Their leading scorers through the first 2 rounds, Nikita Kucherov with 15 points, Victor Hedman with 10 points, and then Ross Colton with 8 points. I swear Tampa Bay just drafts these guys in like the 3rd and 4th round, and then after a couple years, they become impact players on the team. And even though Ross Colton hasn't even been around that long, it feels like he has been, just because he was a big part of them in their playoff run last year. I think he scored the Stanley Cup winning goal in the finals against Montreal, if I'm not mistaken. So he's definitely having himself a pretty solid playoff run thus far. And now looking at the New York Rangers, obviously it took them 7 games to defeat the Carolina Hurricanes. That really was a fantastic series. They've been scoring 3.43 goals per game, allowing 3 goals against per game. Special teams have been very good for the Rangers, especially the power play clicking at 32.5% and their penalty kill clicking at slightly above 80%. The Rangers' leading scorers thus far, Mika Zibanejad with 19 points. He's having a great playoff run. Adam Fox with 18, and then Andrew Kopp with 12. What a deadline acquisition he has turned out to be. Little side note actually about Andrew Kopp: now that the New York Rangers have made the conference finals, the Winnipeg Jets will receive a first-round pick as part of that Kopp deal, so I'm sure the Jets are pretty happy about the Rangers making it all this far. Now, before I give you guys my prediction for this series and break things down a little bit, let's take a look at what you guys had to say, or what you guys think about this. I said, who do you guys have in the Eastern Conference Final? Tampa Bay Lightning, New York Rangers. And at the time I took this screen grab, there was 3.8 thousand votes, so a pretty large sample size there. And I'm definitely not going to pretend I'm surprised about these results. With 74% of the votes, you guys have the Tampa Bay Lightning moving on to the Stanley Cup Finals for the 3rd consecutive year. And I'll just cut right to the chase. I agree with you guys. My prediction for this series is Tampa Bay, but I'm going to say it takes them 7 games. I really think Igor Shesterkin is locked in now after having a couple of shaky games in that first round against Pittsburgh. I'm expecting at least a couple of low-scoring but very entertaining goaltending battles throughout the series between Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. Even though I am betting against the Rangers here once again, they have already proved me wrong twice in these playoffs. I had Pittsburgh in 6 in the first round, and then I believe I took Carolina in 7 in my second round predictions. But neither of those teams are the defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. Neither of those teams had a goaltender like Andrei Vasilevsky. Actually, now that I think of it, New York has actually yet to play against a starting goaltender in these playoffs. It started out as Casey DeSmith. Obviously, he went down. Then it was Louis Domingue in that series, then Antti Raanta, and then Antti Raanta went down in Game 7. And I'm not saying those goaltenders all performed poorly, but going from those names that I just mentioned to Andrei Vasilevsky, it's going to probably be quite the difference. So that is my preview and prediction for the Eastern Conference Final between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Rangers. Let's now move over to the Western Conference Final, the Colorado Avalanche against the Edmonton Oilers. Like I said, McKinnon versus McDavid. The NHL is going to be marketing the hell out of that. Let's first take a look at the numbers for the Colorado Avalanche through the first 2 2 rounds. It took them 6 games to defeat the St. Louis Blues in the second round, so I actually got that prediction spot on. I had Colorado in 6. So far, they've been scoring 4.30 goals per game, which is pretty remarkable, and allowing just 2.7 goals against per game. The special teams have been good, especially the power play, which you would expect when they can roll out the 5 guys they put out there on their power play. 34.5% that's clicking at, and the penalty kill is at 73.1, so I'm sure they'd like to get that up a couple of notches, especially against a team like Edmonton, who doesn't have that bad of a power play themselves. The Avalanche leading scorers so far, McKinnon and Makar with 13 points apiece, and Gabriel Landeskog with 11, so all the guys you'd expect to be there. Moving on over now to look at the Oilers' numbers. Again, it only took them 5 games to eliminate the Calgary Flames in the Battle of Alberta. I was really impressed by Edmonton in that series. Obviously, if you've been watching the channel even just for the past couple of weeks, you would know my Stanley Cup pick was actually the Calgary Flames. McDavid and Draisaitl just look like men on a mission right now that will not be denied, and also gotta give credit to Mike Smith, somebody I've doubted a lot this year. I said multiple times heading into the playoffs that I can't see Edmonton going anywhere with him as their starter, and minus a couple of blunders here and there, for the most part he's been good. But nonetheless, looking at the numbers now, the Oilers have been scoring 4.33 goals per game on average in these playoffs. That's actually number 1 out of any playoff team in that category, and number 2 is Colorado, so expect to see a lot of goals in this series. They've been allowing 3.08 goals against per game, and both special teams have been good, 28.2 power play percentage and a very good 85.4 penalty kill percentage. And the players leading the Oilers in scoring, who would have thought? McDavid, Draisaitl, both with 7 goals and 19 assists for 26 points. Like I said, these two are on an absolute mission in these playoffs. And then Evander Kane is also there with 12 goals and 3 assists for 15 points in the postseason so far. He has been putting the puck in the net. Gotta give credit where credit's due. You may love him, you may hate him, but he has been playing well, and that signing has turned out really good for Edmonton. So now, before I give you guys my prediction for this series, just like we did for the Eastern Conference Finals, let's take a look at the results of the poll. Who do you guys have in the Western Conference Finals? There was 4.1k votes on this one at the time I took the screenshot. And just like I said about the Eastern Conference Final results, I'm not surprised about these ones either. With 66% of the votes, you guys have the Colorado Avalanche advancing past the Edmonton Oilers, so a little bit closer actually than the other one. The Tampa Bay poll was a little bit more lopsided. I feel like almost 90% of people are going to have a Colorado-Tampa final now that we're down to these final 4 teams, and it's kind of the boring prediction, but I am included in that 90%. I also have the Colorado Avalanche winning this series. I'm going to say it takes them 6 games. They just have a much deeper team top to bottom than the Edmonton Oilers. Their defense is much better. I don't know if I feel like Draisaitl and McDavid can keep up scoring at this absurd pace. Obviously, it's probably not smart to doubt those 2 players, but I mean, what they're doing right now is incredible. Can it hold up, especially against a team like Colorado? Whichever way this series goes, though, I'm probably going to be pretty happy with the result. I'm not really rooting for one team over the other here. Either way this goes, we're going to see one of McKinnon or McDavid playing in a Stanley Cup final, and to me, that's really exciting. To me, that's good for the sport. I'm really looking forward to this series, more so than Tampa versus New York, just because I think it's going to be really high-flying, a lot of goals being scored, while the other one's going to be more of a goaltending battle. But that is my preview and predictions for both the Western Conference Final and the Eastern Conference Final. I'm really interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Obviously, I know who the majority of you think are going to win based off of the results of the poll, but leave all your thoughts down below in the comment section if you have anything to say. While you're down there, if you could, please be sure to leave a like on this video. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.